Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. And with me as always is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how are you doing this week?
Doing great. How about you, Eric?
I'm doing fantastic. We're getting through the summer season.
Middle of August already.
Yeah. Summer's going by really quickly. We've got a lot going on. And not the least of which is what we're going to be talking about today. Because I'd say starting from late spring through mid-fall, you see a ton of trade shows. Different industries, different chambers, some for businesses in a certain geographic region, some for businesses in specific industries, some just general trade shows. But they're a valuable resource to take advantage of. So we're going to be talking about how you can take advantage, both as an exhibitor and as an attendee.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. And the first thing that you really have to do, whether you're just an attendee or you have a booth, so you've got to have a plan. Why are you going to that trade show? What is it you want to accomplish? Why that show? And sometimes different shows have different reasons for going. Very busy shows, you may want to be there to gather business. Sometimes it's just for a networking opportunity. So you have to do a little research on the show to know what's going on, who's going to be there, and why you're going.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you are on the exhibitor side. I mean, if you're going as an attendee, obviously you can take a look and see who's going to be there and catch up with people that you want to network with. But as an exhibitor, a lot of times people make mistakes just figuring they're going to show up at a show and walk away with business, and it doesn't happen that way. It's very, very important to really come up with a plan, come up with a budget, make sure that the show is going to be good for you so that you're not just spending a day out there spending a whole lot of money with no results.
Right, and you have to go in with realistic expectations. I just read a study over the past week saying the sales funnel that starts at a trade show generally takes 2 years to complete. So a potential client that you're meeting at a trade show for the first time, it can take up to 2 years before you actually close that deal.
Yeah, obviously it depends on the type of business that you're in, but that's absolutely true. And that's why one of the things that's so important at a trade show is to make sure that you're collecting the information, but not only doing that, you have to have a follow-up mechanism so that you can keep in touch with the people that you meet that day. So many times you think you have a great trade show, but you don't do any follow-up and everything falls through the cracks as a result of it.
All right, that's something that's very important to remember, is that the trade show is a starting point. It's not the end point. You have to collect contact information. You have to follow up with those contacts. If you meet somebody at a trade show and then don't follow up, nothing's going to come of it. You can't wait for the other person to make the connection. You have to reach out to them.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's very, very similar to going to a networking meeting and meeting people. A lot of times you walk away from a networking meeting with a bunch of business cards and people that you really hit it off with, but because you don't follow up with that, nothing happens after that. So it's really more like a networking experience that you're paying for to be an exhibitor in the show, but it is similar in a whole lot of ways. So you got to have your strategy for following up and keeping in touch with these people.
All right, if you don't follow up, if you don't make contact after, you've just wasted your time.
Yeah, one of the advantages of doing a trade show, though, is being able to do your giveaways. So a lot of people plan on different things that they're giving to the people who stop by their booth so that they can remember them. So some of the handouts and so on and so forth that they have, you really need to put a lot of thought into that also. One of the best ones is if you give away a bag with your name on it that collects everybody else's things.
Right. A strong reusable bag is a fantastic giveaway, not just because they'll be carrying it throughout the show, but so many people now reuse those bags to pick up groceries, to pick up supplies. So your name is in front of them over and over again. And there's a couple things, as an attendee, you've got the advantage that you can go up to anybody, you can talk to them. As an exhibitor, you're behind your booth. So you need to figure out how to bring people to you. And giveaways are a great way to do that. Again, you do have to be careful. Your giveaway, one, should be something they're going to reuse so it keeps your name and contact information in front of them. Two, it should be related to what you do so that there's a connection between the item and you. And three, you have to be careful of the gimmies. What's a gimme? Well, a lot of shows now do what they call passports. And they give the attendees a passport, and the attendee has to get a stamp from every booth they go to. And then if they complete their passport, they're entered in a drawing. Well, a lot of shows, if you're an exhibitor, you'll see the gimmies are the ones that show up at your booth. They don't care what you're doing. They don't care why you're there. They just want the stamp. Same thing goes for giveaways. The gimmies are those people, they don't care what you do. They're there. They just grab the free stuff and go. For that reason, I recommend not having your giveaways out in the open. Have it behind your booth and give them to the people that stop and talk to you.
Yeah, especially if you're spending a lot more money on the giveaways. It's one thing to give away, a 30-cent pen. It's another way to give away a coffee mug or something like that. But, one of the best strategies for getting people in your booth is, instead of standing in your booth, standing outside, and not just giving a sales pitch to people who are walking by, but just noticing something about them, being personable if you can, just engaging them in conversation. And that's really the best way to get people engaged with you. Again, it's all about networking. It's about getting people to know you, like you, and trust you. So if you're standing there being aggressive, saying, hey, do you need a mortgage or do you need a computer or something like that, it's not going to get the trick done. But if you notice something about somebody and just get them talking with you, you're a lot more likely to get them engaged into coming into your booth. And even if they're not interested in what you have, they might tell somebody else who they know at the trade show to go see you.
All right. You want to start a conversation. I've exhibited at a lot of booths, and without fail, the first thing I generally say to somebody as they're going by is, how's the show going for you? How's your day going? Make it about them. Then once that conversation starts, they're going to ask you, so what do you do? What is your company? Getting that conversation going, making it about the attendee if you're an exhibitor, brings them over, gets them talking. And once you get them talking, they're going to ask about you, and you can give them enough information to get them interested.
Yeah, it's also a good strategy if you are a focused attendee. If you're looking at booths that you'd really like to meet, because a lot of people go to trade shows looking to make connections to possibly do business with the exhibitors and things like that. And it's really, really important to do the exact same thing, is to engage the person, walk up, say, hey, how's the show going for you? You have an interesting booth, getting them talking about themselves and that kind of thing. So it goes both ways. again,
Right.
all on the plan that you talked about at the beginning. It's so important to go with the plan so that you can maximize your experience there.
And most trade shows are making it much easier for you to find the people you want to connect with. Over the past 2 years, I don't think I've been to a single trade show that didn't either have a directory of their exhibitors on their website, or now more and more commonly, an app for your phone, so that while you're there, you can see where they are, who's at the event and where they're located. So figure out who it is you want to connect with and make that effort to connect them. Now, as an exhibitor, again, you've got to get people to want to come to your booth. And more, especially in large trade shows, you have to make it easy for people to find your booth. It's very easy to get lost in the crowd. I've had clients that I've set up trade booths for, and I always recommend helium balloons tied to the top of the booth with the company logo on it. Because then when somebody asks you, well, how do I find your booth? You can tell them, look up, you'll see the balloons. That's us. Because when somebody's looking forward at a trade show, it's overwhelming. You see everybody. It's very difficult to find people. But if you can stand out just a little bit from the crowd, it gets people to come over.
Yeah, and using balloons is great because you can see that from anywhere in the, depending on how high they go, you can see that from anywhere in the exhibit hall. It's, it's kind of like the tour guide with the umbrella that you're looking for is leading your group. If you have that there, it stands out big time. And if it's really interesting and fun, I mean, that's one of the things, if the more fun you make your booth while still keeping it professional, the more likely you are to get people to want to come and see what you're doing. It's not a bad idea for you to have your own type of giveaway or contest or something like that related to your business there, which is a good way to help you collect business cards and things like that from people there and get them engaged. So the more creative you are, and balloons is a great way to do that, the more likely you are to draw people.
Right. You just mentioned having a giveaway. Having a drawing is a great way to collect business cards, because who doesn't want to get something for free? They'll drop their business card in for the chance for a discounted product, a special giveaway, whatever it is. But once you collect those cards, you have to make sure to follow up with everyone.
Yeah,
That's the key.
And a good thing to do too is have a means for people who don't have business cards to get their information, like have a pre-formatted card where you actually have them fill in their contact information for you also. So you can get both ways.
Yeah. You want to make it as easy for them to give you their contact information as possible. Anything that makes it difficult for you to contact them, they're going to walk away. If they're interested in what you do, you need to make it as simple as possible. And again, part of that is how you get your information across. It used to be very expensive to run video at a trade show booth. Now it's incredibly simple, because all you have to do is place your video on a tablet and have the tablet sitting at your booth. I've done this at a couple of trade shows. My business partner and I had appeared on a local news show, and we took the clip from the news show and we put it on a tablet, put the tablet up. People came by just to see what was playing. And then they started asking, oh, well, what is this? And they started to engage. Video is a great way to get people to engage because it introduces motion to your booth. It's something that grabs the attention.
Yeah, even a looping PowerPoint presentation is a good way to lure people in too.
Exactly.
It's so important to have your information and the message that you're trying to get across there. So it's important that if you have people helping you out with the booth, that they work for you, that they are trained in what to answer as far as questions go and that kind of thing. That's part of the planning process, is having everybody on the same page as far as what they're trying to do in the booth.
Right. And I mentioned that the motion of the video, the motion of the looping PowerPoint is part of what brings people over. Speaking about motion, the worst thing you can do as an exhibitor is be sitting on a chair behind your booth. You need to be up. You need to be walking around. You need to be in motion, waving people in, talking to people as they come by. If you sit in the booth and just wait for somebody to come over, odds are they're not going to.
Yeah, I usually stand in front of the booth. I'm usually in the aisle with the people. Yep. Not to pull them in aggressively, but just to start conversations. It's such an easy way to do that.
Yeah, and you'll actually notice that a lot of exhibitor booths now, rather than the traditional backdrop and table in front, the table will be at an angle, or sometimes it'll be two tables on each side, and the booth is open, inviting you to walk into it. You want to make your booth inviting. And as an attendee, you want to see what's at the booth, but you also want to be courteous of the people who are exhibiting. You don't want to block other people from getting to the booth while you're looking at things.
Yeah, and having the tables on the side or in the back is a great way to maximize the space that you have, because if you have it in the front, you are in essence blocking the whole booth off. So you're going to be relying on pictures and things like that behind you, or just your pretty face talking to people.
Right. So now, of course, another part of most trade shows now are keynote addresses, classes, and now more and more often class tracks where it's several presentations. These can be fantastic resources. And every trade show that does these lists them on their website ahead of time. Some have you register for them ahead of time. Some you can just walk into. But take a look at what resources are available, because a trade show isn't just going to an event. Usually there's several parts. There's the educational tracks. There's the exhibitor booths. There's getting a hold of a directory so that you can, as an attendee, you can follow up with exhibitors that maybe you weren't able to get to. I actually went to a trade show just recently where there was one exhibitor I specifically wanted to meet with. And I went back to their booth several times. Nobody was ever there. So they had business cards laid out on their table. I grabbed the card of the person I needed to talk to and followed up afterwards. Now, in this case, because I was specifically looking for them, I went the extra mile to follow up with them afterwards, even though they weren't there. If I hadn't been motivated to do that, most people walked right by their booth. Not having someone there basically tells people you're closed for business. You don't need, you don't want to talk to anybody. And
you definitely have to have somebody there. The other thing about shows that do have educational events and breakouts and so on and so forth, if you can be one of the featured speakers yourself in an area of expertise about your business, not promoting yourself, but as a speaker, that is really, really good to help, number one, bring people to your booth in the show, and for your credibility as being an expert in your field also. And that's a great thing to do if you are going to be speaking at a trade show, when you are doing your promo work and sending out all of your, electronic things and whatever, flaunt the fact that you're going to be speaking there and invite them to come and visit with you afterwards, that kind of thing. But if you can get on the docket being a speaker, that's a great, great boost to your trade show booth.
Absolutely. If you can be a speaker, it's great. But if you can't be a speaker, I mean, there's a limited number of spots, and very often there's far too many people who want those spots to fit everybody in. There is nothing stopping you from setting up your booth with chairs and holding workshops at your booth. You need to make sure your booth is big enough, but it's another great way to draw people in by giving them a 15-minute, 20-minute workshop that they can come by, learn some things that they can put to use in their business, and then they know, okay, this is what you do. You're the expert in this. It immediately gives you credibility.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, the technology is there to do all these things a lot less expensively than it would have cost you to do it even 5 or 10 years ago, just by using the technology available to you. So be creative.
All right. And there's always other opportunities. There are great ways to get involved in trade shows. I know one company that works with trade shows. They've done this for years, but they're a promotions company, and they provide polo shirts, logoed polo shirts for the trade show employees. And in return, they get a booth and they get listed as a sponsor. And it's a great way for them to bring attention to what they do. And every employee that's guiding people through the trade show becomes a walking billboard for them. Somebody walks up, well, what do you do? What kind of work do you do? Well, you see all those employees? We did those shirts. And it's a great opportunity for them.
Instant credibility.
That's it. And, this same company, it's important to get out of your comfort zone. The company is based in Connecticut, but they do trade shows all over the country. Because now your audience is as close as your website. So you can do business almost anywhere in the country. If you're a retailer, you can sell things online. If you provide services, you can provide services through the phone, through video conferencing. So you're no longer limited to, say, a 25, 30-mile radius around your office. You can go to other states, introduce yourselves, and spread out.
Yeah, if you are in the business, it truly is a world wide web right now. And it's so important, too, if you are a web-based business, like promotional specialties and so on and so forth, get your website ready for the follow-up itself. Put up a thank you page for people that came to the trade show and have them go into your website to do some type of a follow-up exercise there. That's a great way to keep people engaged. Again, it's outside the box, but the more that you can make this an ongoing experience instead of just, a couple hours at a trade show, the more likely you are to keep long-term relationships going.
All right. You don't want that trade show to be the only time they hear from you. Have a sign-up sheet, either paper or you can do it electronically on a tablet so that it's automatic, and let people sign up for a newsletter. Let people sign up for special offers and send these out on a regular basis so that they keep hearing from you. If you're an attendee, turn it around. Talk to exhibitors you're interested in and tell them, look, we send out a regular newsletter. If you want, let me get your business card. I can sign you up for it.
Yeah, especially if there's potential synergy there. That's a great way to get things going, as referral partners.
Right. You want to keep the communication lines open. The trade show is a great place to meet people you wouldn't ordinarily meet up with. Or I've done this on many occasions. We've used trade shows to actually meet in person people you may have been doing business with, people that you've spoken to on the phone, that you've emailed with, but you've never been in the same place at the same time. A trade show gives you the opportunity to connect in person and deepen that relationship.
Yeah, especially if you're dealing with people who are good people, but they're very, very hard to get a hold of, but you know they're going to be exhibiting at the trade shows. There's one trade show that I go to every year that's just a Hartford Business Expo, where I run into people just once a year because I know I'm going to see them at that show. But if you want to keep in touch with people who are otherwise hard to get a hold of, that's a great place to do that if you know if they're going to be there. Again, it's all part of the planning.
Exactly. You need to know what's going on, who's going to be there, and plan to be there. All right, we're coming up on the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway you want our listeners to have?
Whether you are exhibiting or you are just attending, come up with a plan and make sure that you follow through on it after the show.
Absolutely. I think the big takeaway is you have to follow up. It's not enough to see somebody at a trade show. You need to keep in touch with them and build that communication. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us here every week at blogtalkradio.com/Success Showcase. You can also find us on the podcasts app in the Apple Store and the iTunes Store from Apple. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. See you then.